Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, a podcast where we invite you to be a part of their world. We're your hosts, Jared and James. Today we're talking about FOMO. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another week. Last week we talked about the meta, and we're already seeing a shift. I don't know if you've noticed that, James, but I definitely have. And this
For
week
sure.
yeah. And this week we are talking about something that this game is designed to make us feel, and that is FOMO, or the fear of missing out. So, a couple nights ago, my wife and I were on a date, and I got a notification that Disney Lorcana had sent out a tweet. And it's like our policy to not be on our phones while we're on a date, but the whole time, like I was just like anxious, wondering what it was that they'd sent out. And like in my mind, what I had planned on doing was anytime they sent out a tweet from the official Twitter account, I was gonna post that picture with the police officer holding up the picture of Oswald saying, "Have you seen this rabbit?" And I'm like, I'm missing my opportunity here. Um, and uh, FOMO right there. I just wanted to use that as a springboard into a broader discussion about the fear of missing out.
Well, I think fear of missing out, I think mainly, I mean, yours was specific to sending a tweet, which not everybody is probably going to have, a one-to-one with. But for most of us, it's about getting product, having all the cards to build the decks you want, uh, collecting everything that we want in the set, any version of that, most of us are having that issue right now of not being able to find all the product that we want and not being able to build the decks we want, not being able to put together the collection we want. All of that, the fear of missing out and wondering if we're going to get everything or if we're just out of luck, right?
Well, and that's exactly what prompted the this topic. As I was on tcgplayer.com and shamelessly buying the Hey Hey and Yzma promo cards because they were like less than $10. I sat there and I just had like a moment of clarity, like an out of body experience where I just like my spirit was out here and was looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, and but I have this fear because I'm like, I'm just not very good at this game, or I don't have a good deck. I didn't have a good deck. I did really good at my locals last week,
Yeah, I saw.
but I I basically have no hope of winning a promo, let alone the pins. And I just get this sinking feeling in my stomach, like when they first announced the promos, I'm like, there's no way I'm not gonna get these because I'm Mr. Lorcana. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be good at this game because that's one of my goals. And now here I am, like they announced the set two promos, and I'm like, I don't even have like hope of getting the set one promos at this point. So that's when I had that experience where I was like, is this a problem?
Right. And I have not had that moment because I know that this is not a problem where I have to get everything. Um, but yeah, your situation with those promos especially is so annoying because the locals should be almost like too easy to get those if they're doing it the way they're supposed to be doing it, right?
That's what I hear.
Yeah. I mean, if you read this is one thing that we're going to talk about in the news is they made the retailer kits available to read essentially and what the
Right.
league play should be. And they should be handing out those promos like every week to players.
So I stayed for the whole duration of our league night last Tuesday, and it was the end of the league. Like their league was set up for 6 weeks. They met two times a week. And I was like, so are they like handing out promos? And everybody's like, I don't know. So I went and talked to the guy, and he's like, no, we're not handing out any promotional stuff today. Keep an eye on our socials. Like,
Oh my
so how
goodness.
am I supposed to know? Like, I mean, I don't anticipate getting anything, but maybe I got enough stickers to squeeze out a Mickey Mouse detective card.
Right.
I don't know, but and the thing is this game store is like half hour away, so I don't anticipate going back there once this league is over. Even though there's some amazing people there and I've made really good friends. I probably should, but I don't know.
That's crazy because I mean I've been to how many shops have I been to now? I've been to one, two, three, four more than once, and every single one of them I've gotten a promo at.
Oh wow.
So I think every single one I've gotten 5 promos.
Rub it and
No, but I'm saying that's how it should be run. I mean, they're all doing it like in a couple of different ways. Like one of them actually did it as a league where you got points, and at the end of the league, you got prizes. And I was lucky enough to have enough points, even though I didn't go twice a week, to get a Mickey promo. And one of the other times, he was giving away a promo every week to like the top person or the top three or something like that, but also giving away one randomly. I think it was to the top person, then one random by like dice roll or something. And another place that we're going to, Kingslayer, they're giving away the pins to the top three every single time they do an event,
mm,
and they're giving away the promos randomly by raffle to random people during the event itself. And another place I go to is doing that same thing, and then another one is giving them away, I think, to the top 8 or the top 6, depending on how many show or whatever it is. They're giving them away once they ran out of product, because they were giving away product initially. Now they're giving away promos. So every single one of them is doing something.
yeah, the other place that I've been to, it's called TK's Boba. They just do a random raffle during the day, but I've only been able to go there once. So
Yeah.
my work schedule changed. I might start going there weekly though. So
Nice. All right. So we're talking about missing out, and that's the fear of missing out is generally a negative feeling. It's got a lot of negativity around it. So let's remind ourselves and everyone that our friend Heath from the Be Our Guest Lorcana told us, which is make sure that this is a game that brings you joy. So if the fear of missing out is causing you problems, as Jared had that moment of clarity, maybe take a step back and see what is causing you to not have fun in the game and change it. But we are going to, what other things that we are fear of missing out on? I mean, is there anything else that uh, we're afraid we're missing out on? I actually realized this last week that after, the initially not feeling like I was getting any product, I realized after that one score of all those troves a couple of weeks ago, and then a few other times where I've been able to get a few packs here and there, I'm 20 cards away from finishing my playset collection. And that, it took a lot of trading and a lot of packs and all that kind of stuff. And I think I'm like only about 70 cards away from the foil set, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. I mean, it's not really. Um, and I just had to take a second, like you did, and be like, I feel like I should be going to Target every day, and I feel like I should be hunting stuff down online. But I realized that I didn't need to. I mean, I can still look, but I didn't need to make it like the number one thing I'm doing that day, where I'm like, okay, do I need to go to Target at lunch and hunt down the stalker, the vendor who is stalking this area, and wait in a line with 10 other people, like I actually did do one day last week, and got technically nothing. I made it up there when all the packs were gone and there was like a starter deck left. And I'm like, well, it's a Ruby Emerald. I already have like at least 3 of every starter deck. And I'm like, so I grabbed it, and I'm like, I turned around and there were still 2 people in line who weren't going to get anything. And I'm like, well, I don't really need it. Do either of you guys need it? And one guy's like, well, I haven't gotten that one yet. And I'm like, well, here you go. And I handed it to him, and he went off and bought it,
oh
which was, it's either spend money and buy a pack, or someone who needs it gets it, right?
yeah.
And so I was like, okay, fine. So I was off to the side, and I was like typing something on my phone for a second, and another guy walks up and he's like, hey, I just wanted to repay the favor. And he handed me one of the packs. He was like one of the first people in line, and they only got 2 packs. They were allowed to grab 2 packs, and he gave me one of his packs. And he's
Wow.
like, here you go, I was just paying it forward. And I'm like, wow, that was so nice. So, and it's funny because I ended up actually playing against him at an event at a shop I went to for the first time. I played against him during the event, which was pretty cool.
I can totally relate. I actually acquired my last card needed to get four of everything
Wow.
at my locals. It was a Rapunzel. But
Nice.
even still today, like I mentioned, I started a new job and it's right across the street from a Target and a Barnes and Noble. And I still went in to look at
Of
both
course.
locations. And like I haven't been able to go out and do the, check Targets and Barnes and Nobles because I'm always stuck at the airport where I used to work. And I just have that feeling like I was missing out. And I don't know. It's crazy.
But we have to, like I said, we have to just step back and realize that we're just it's the fun of collecting. It's the chase of opening packs and seeing what you can get. It's the satisfaction of completing a set. Like every time you get something that either finishes a portion, like I'm done with steel, or I finished four of everything I need for this particular deck I wanted to build. Every little bit of that feeds that, and you just got to make sure that you're paying attention to that and monitoring it and making sure you're not going overboard.
I got so desperate to crack packs that I bought a Pokemon Elite
Oh, I
Trainer
know. I
box.
saw. Did you buy the one you bought that you got all that awesome stuff in?
Yeah, it was a pretty
Yeah,
sweet
yeah. He got
pack.
Jared got some awesome Pokemon stuff, man. Got two of like the best card in the set.
Yeah.
Two
Yep.
in one ETB. That's
Yep.
crazy.
It
Anyway,
was a rush.
it was. I bet. I bet. Okay. So what else are we talking about today? What did you
So
do?
for today's pod, we did something we've never done before. We actually asked listeners questions on Twitter, and we got a lot of responses. So we're just gonna read through. I mean, I don't even know how many there are. There must be like 20 or so questions.
There were like 20 to 30 questions.
So we're gonna do our best to read through these and answer them, and maybe we just like take turns reading
Okay.
questions. Okay. So this one comes from our good friend Eric Schweitzer. How long do you think you can keep up with the need to collect full playsets for each set? What about promos and pins? And I even responded to him on this one, telling him that story about me buying those promos off TCG Player. I honestly don't know. I'd like to say that set one was the only set that I feel I need to get everything. But as we're getting set two coming out, and I see all these cards and how amazing they are, I want set two now. And maybe like I'm not dead set on getting the promo pins, but I definitely want one of each of the promos. So that it's a hard thing to say. I will say this: my only other experience with something like this was I played Pokemon Go, and that controlled my life for like 5 years. I had to get every single exclusive event Pokemon. Like I was always out there playing until one day I was just like, why am I doing this? I don't know if that's what it's going to take for me with Lorcana. I'd like to think that I can have a healthy relationship with Lorcana for many years to come, though.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, I've mentioned it many times where I have this collector personality where I have to get everything. So for me, I'm going to keep trying. I want to collect as much of this as I can. Now, am I going to get five of everything and a foil set that like I'm doing for the first chapter? I don't know. I may be okay with getting four of everything, just getting a play set of everything and just keeping the best one away and only using it if I have to in maybe the legendaries. I'll be like, I can only get four, but everything else that's easy to get, I'll get five. Um, Maybe I won't get the foil set every time. I don't know. I just think it just matters. It just depends on how much I'm spending, how much time it takes out of everything else that I want to do. I definitely want to get the promos and the pins. I think those kinds of things are going to they help for me to make me feel like I have the collection complete. So even if in the future, like in a few years, if I just don't have time to play anymore, I'm probably going to still want to collect and just get one of everything, just because, you know, it's a collection. I'd like to have a collection, and every time they come out with new stuff, my collection is now incomplete. So yes, it's going to be difficult, but I think I can manage it to where I'm not like. I mean, I was crazy enough thinking maybe I'll get like French cards and German cards and all that, and I'm like,
I remember that.
I'm like,
The
no,
the French based movies, I'm gonna get
yeah.
cards from France of those ones.
I still might get something like that, but it'll be like if they show up and they're like in front of me and someone makes it easy to get them. I'm not going to go out of my way because it's taking so much effort to go out of my way just to get what the basics of finishing a set, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I think I will be hopefully cognizant enough of what's happening to be able to alter what I'm collecting as it becomes appropriate and what the wallet can handle.
I
All
definitely
right.
want to get at least one of everything. That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
goal going
And,
forward. Like
and then
maybe
play
not
set.
four of everything,
Right.
four
And
of
play sets
everything I
as
want
you
to
build
play.
decks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That seems like a pretty smart way to go. I mean, if as a collector, if you get one of everything, you're done. You can call yourself done if you get one of everything. And then if you're playing, just add some stuff for the decks you want to play.
Yeah.
All right. So the next question is from the card captain. And he asks, I still have FOMO and still try to look for Lorcana in the wild. I'm pretty sure you'll cover this, but I was just wondering if Ravensburger will print more first chapter cards. That's an easy one to answer because they have announced that they are reprinting the first chapter for Q1 2024, which means anywhere from January to March, we should see a flood of chapter one back on the shelves at local game stores. Mainly, I think. I think they said booster product is the main thing they're going to do. So they may not be remaking gift sets and troves. We'll have to find out and wait and see what actually happens. But yes, we will be getting more.
Well, and don't forget the October restock that's supposedly incoming.
Right. Hopefully.
Okay. Next question comes from Jess. Having a hard time with the just buy singles mindset that a lot of longtime TCG players seem to be pushing. Sure, for the 10 cent to $12 cards, but when a playset of, say, Rapunzel gifted with healing runs $200, doesn't make sense to me. Wondering if anyone else is feeling that way. And absolutely, like, I'm one of those people who buys the singles. Like, I was lucky enough to get 3 boxes, but that's pretty much the extent of my sealed product that I've opened to this point. I have been able to finagle some favorable trades, but mostly it's been buying off TCG player. And luckily, I mean, before Lorcana hit the mass market on September 1st, the cards were relatively cheap. Like Rapunzel's were going for $34 at that time. And I'm kicking myself for not buying a full playset then. But I thought for sure once the cards came out into the stores that it'd go down in price. Um, I guess this just comes down to how bad you want it and how bad you want it now. Knowing that the reprint is coming in Q1, you could wait and these prices are going to drop dramatically. I even think with set two coming up, the prices are going to start to drop because people are going to be more interested in the second set than the first one. Um, yeah, that's a tough question. What do you think, James?
It is tough. I'm the opposite. I have not purchased I've oh wait. I've purchased a single, and that was because I had store credit and they had some cards in stock. So I bought a legendary beast because it was like $6. Um, but that's it because I have the fun of opening packs and I was collecting enough. I was needing enough stuff that until just recently, I felt like buying packs would get me, even if I didn't get the things I specifically needed, I would be getting stuff that would be good for trading. And that has worked very well for me because I have been doing some really good trading over the last couple of weeks, which is how I got down to only needing 20 cards just in 2 weeks after I was missing well over 100, I think, when I haven't even opened up very much product. So I understand that it makes sense if you're just building a deck that buying a limited amount of sealed product like a starter deck or something to get you started, and then just filling it in with singles or building the deck entirely from singles makes sense. In the that's all I need, but I also understand people who are like, I just want to buy a bunch of product to open and then I'll just put it together and I'll have plenty of stuff and I'll just fill in the gaps for building what I need. And then I'll finally buy singles. I understand it all. And it just depends on, like you said, it depends on how you feel like going about it. It's personal preference. It may be overall the using math, the smart thing to do is just to buy singles. But I don't think it would be the smart thing to buy singles if you wanted to do what I was doing, which was getting 5 of every card, because that would be like $2,500, right?
I got 4 of everything.
Yeah.
Um,
But you also had 3 boxes. I'm just saying, just buying straight singles, it would cost at right now at the current prices, it would cost you about $2,500 to get 5 of everything.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's tough. I mean, part of it depends too if you live in a place where you can trade or if
right.
you have the ability to meet up with people to trade. I
Exactly.
mean, that's how I did my hero as well, was I would buy a box or two and then just fill in the rest with singles. For me personally, like it is fun to open up booster packs, but I don't get that rush or that high that a lot of people talk about. For me, I like knowing that when I buy something on TCG Player, I'm getting that card. Like
Right.
it's not a lottery, which is
Which I
fun in
guess
the
is good.
beginning, but when you get your 5th beast Wolfsbane, you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Well, yes, that, but luckily 3 of the legendaries I wasn't getting out of the few I wasn't getting, 3 of them were the 3 cheapest ones. So, I mean, I still need 2 Gontus, and it's like, well, that's a big deal. It's like a $4 card. I'll get it eventually, right?
Yep, yep.
Anyway,
So
that's basically it. Yeah, it just depends on how you want to go about it. I don't think I mean, yeah, like I said, with math, there may be technically the best way, but also with a trading card game, because of the way it's designed, how you get it to make it better for you is the way that's the best way.
and I do believe, I'm choosing to believe that once product is plentiful, say set 3, that singles prices will be a lot closer to Pokemon prices than a Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh prices.
Right.
That's what I'm choosing to believe.
Where only the like ultra rare alternate art kind of stuff is the only thing that's really expensive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can buy like Rapunzel should only be like a $20 card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next up, this one I think is specifically for you, Jared. It's from Zbex on Twitter. When was the first time someone recognized you in person?
See, I don't know if anybody's really recognized me in person because my face is rarely out there. Um, the first time I would say somebody recognized me or us was at Gamma when we were meeting with a bunch of the Ravensburger employees. They're like, oh yeah, we listened to your podcast. Like that was the first time that somebody knew me from my content, which was really cool. The
Yeah.
first real experience I had where somebody wanted to meet with me specifically because they listened to the podcast was at Gen Con when I had somebody message me through Twitter like, "Hey, I heard you here. I'm a big fan. I'd love to meet you." And for me that was really cool. So, that was probably the first time as Gamma, but the first time I had somebody specifically want to connect with me was at Gen Con. But you've had people recognize you at your local game stores.
Yes, actually, one day, like someone sat down to play against me, and he's like, "James, Dan Regal, are you the guy from the podcast?" And I'm like, "I am." So that was cool.
See, and I think like 90% of the people I play with at my locals don't even realize that I do a podcast. I think more of them are starting to know now, but I I'm a pretty low key guy in real life. All right,
You would think I would not be, but yes, I am not very talkative either in real life unless I know people. So
that is
like
surprising.
if I'm sitting there at the game store and it's not started yet, I'll be like sitting there by myself and not saying anything. And then like if it's an event where Eric's going to show up as well, then I'll talk to Eric when he shows up. And anyone who actually comes over is like, "Are you trading?" I'll talk to them, but it usually I'm not like out there, chatting it up with everybody and talking to them and finding out stuff. It's just not like it's not like my personality. So
See, Zebex, for those of you who don't know, is a totally awesome person that does cosplays for Magic. She also did a Lorcana cosplay at Gen Con where she was dressed up as Tinkerbell. She's done Pokemon, and so I can understand why people see and recognize her out in public.
yeah,
All right, next question. This comes from Anthony. He says, "How, if at all, will the availability of the second set impact the future of the game?" I'll be honest, I don't know if you've recognized this or if you've seen this too in your local scene, but when I first started playing, we had like 32 people coming out, and now it's like 12 to 16. And mostly it's because a lot of people were tired of just playing starter decks with one or two extra boosters. And even still, when I was there this last Tuesday, there were a lot of people who are still just playing with modified starter decks. And that would be frustrating for me. So I'm a big Lorcana homer. Like I want this game to succeed, but um I'd also be putting the blinders on if I didn't say that I've noticed that the lack of product availability has affected the game. And if it continues into set two, which I think that it will, I don't think it'll be until set three that we see plentiful product. Who knows? Like I think the core will still be there. I think there were always like the people who are still playing now, I think are going to be in it for the long haul. I just hope by the time more product is available, like there's something that brings those people back in.
right. Yeah, I certainly hope that a lot of people that are seeing it now and then finding out about it now and not being able to find product, or going to a store and seeing packs for $15 or $20 and being like, nope, that's not for me. That's not for my buying for my kid. I'm not going to do that. I hope that there's not too many of those people that don't come back. I hope there's a lot of people who find out about it over time and are able to organically start getting into the game when it's available. So this is the danger period between now and next February. This is the danger period of the game where if product just doesn't make it into enough hands or into enough stores where they then feel like they don't need to support the game because it's not available, then the game could fail. I don't think that's going to happen. Like you said, there's still people coming out and playing even if they do only have modified starters, and I think those people will continue. Um, but it definitely does affect the attitude overall and the general feel of it if there's not a lot of people able to get product, which is why I'm so thankful for the stores who are still giving away like a pack every time you go and sign up, or whatever it may be, where there's still a little bit of product kind of leaking out a little bit at a time to where those people feel like they're actually still able to invest in the game and spend their time and money and actually get something back for it, not just a promo card and some store credit, which is great, but that pack that goes along with it, I think, is really helpful. So next up from our guest from last week, Ross, Disney Lorcana Dad, he asked, if you missed out on set one, should you skip it for now and wait a few sets to go back and buy singles for any still relevant staples, or should you buy singles for set one now? I think it's pretty obvious right now that you don't really need to buy singles right now, just because of availability. But starting in quarter one, when that reprint drops, I think that's your time to go, because I think there'll be a lot of availability then. And you'll only be one set behind technically if you buy then, because then you just need to go back and buy set two. So maybe start with set two.
Well, and I think if you're talking about relevant staples, I mean, sure, like Rapunzel's and Belle's and Elsa's, like, yeah, you could probably hold off on buying those. But if you want to get into the game today, there are staples like Fire the Cannons and Friends on the Other Side and Smash. Like, you could go buy a lot of those. In fact, somebody on Twitter tagged me in this. They're like, I bought a bunch of commons and uncommons off of TCG Player just to build decks. They live somewhere that Lorcana isn't being sold, but it's a easy way for them to enjoy it that doesn't break the bank. So I'd say, I mean, if you want to get a taste of Lorcana, maybe that's what you do is you play Porcana or the Popper format and
Right.
just get the cheap singles.
There's a couple of things I've seen, which is I was on a random store's website from somewhere else in the country, and they actually were selling for like $6 a 30 card modified, put together starter deck of commons and uncommons, where you could buy a 30 card deck just to learn how to play the game to see if you liked it.
That's awesome.
And then the shop that we've been going to a few times in the last few weeks, a place called Shuffle and Cut, they actually will let you borrow a deck to play in their events.
Nice.
So that there's always, if you want to go learn how to play and you don't have any cards yet, you can basically rent a deck for the event and see if you like playing the game or not.
I like that. All right, next question. This comes from Matt Lally. Have you experienced FOMO with something else on the same level as you are experiencing it with Lorcana? How did you handle it, and would you change how you handled it if you could? So for me, I already talked about this. It was definitely Pokemon Go. I mean, I was up at 4 in the morning just about every day, making the rounds, catching my Pokemon, doing raids. Like I had to have every single event exclusive, like even if it was just a stupid hat on a Charmander, I had to go, I had to go out and get it. And I definitely had that FOMO when I couldn't participate in community day or whatever, or I only got 8 shinies on community day instead of 25. And how did I handle it? Like I said, it was after about 5 years of hard, intense playing. I just had this moment of clarity like, I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over, just with different skins on it. And I just like quit cold turkey. Haven't gone back since. Um, I would like to say that I could have handled that better. Like, I don't know, not been so deep into it, but that seems to be my personality. When I get into something, I go in deep.
Yeah.
And I guess the way I can handle it is let my wife control the bank account.
Yeah, that might be the way, right? No, I am 100% a FOMO type as a collector. When I get into something, like you said, I go all in. So like when I didn't start collecting Disney Infinity until they added Star Wars in the third series, and then it was like I'm going back and finding everything, and I was like hunting Toys R Us's and websites and ordering stuff like to pick up at like Best Buys and GameStops and everywhere I could. I was hunting these things down that had been out of print now and were sometimes hard to find. And I mean, I was even hunting on Craigslist and like people offering stuff up and like, okay, let's go meet at Starbucks so I can give you $5 for this stupid little race car Infinity figure. And I mean, I've known that about myself for a very long time. So the way I do it is the way I handle it is I make sure that I set, limits and parameters on myself um, to make sure that I don't go way too overboard. As an adult, I have some willpower and self control, and I have been able to, make sure that I like, during lockdown when there was nothing to do, I was like, oh, let's get puzzles because you can do those at home and they're fun. And so then I went on puzzle hunts, and now I have like hundreds of puzzles sitting in the other room there, stacked up, waiting to be done because I was just like, oh, let's go get them all. And so I mean, yeah, I do have sometimes go a little, I do go overboard, but I recognize it. So it's like way back in the day when Magic was first starting, like a year or two after that, I noticed I knew about it, and it was when I had a comic shop, and so I saw it and I sold it, and I'm like, I'm never going to start playing this. I mean, I know that as soon as I start playing this, this will become my life, and it will take everything else over, and therefore I know not to do it. Um, because that just like with I mean, and you're seeing it with me with Lorcana is like, it's yeah, I'm buying all these things. I'm doing a podcast. I'm, all of this stuff around Lorcana. It's just, I'm more of an adult now than I was when I was, how long ago was that? I was 20 something. I'm a little bit more mature, I think. So I'm able to handle it a little bit better. But I knew back then I was at least, cognizant enough and self-aware enough to know that if I got into Magic, that it would have been a problem and an issue. So I just didn't do it. I just sold it. um, so that's kind of how you do it. Just try and be a little self-aware of what's happening and set limits on yourself. Um, and just try and make sure that it's not something that's causing any problems in your life, in your marriage, in your relationships, anything, just in your bank account. Just make sure it's not adversely affecting those things. Next question we have is from Lebarbs. Which of the Rise of the Floodborn promos is your favorite? So we're going to go over these promos later, but just which one is your favorite?
That's hard to choose because there are things that I like about all of them. Um, but I would have to say I love the seven cost Cinderella that they revealed. So I'm gonna have to go with
That's not the promo.
Cinderella. So I'm gonna have to go with the Cinderella Night in Training promo just
Gotcha.
for the fact that you can shift onto her. She's
Right.
a two cost. I mean, the big Cindy doesn't shift until like turn 5, so maybe hold on to her until turn 3 or 4, just so she doesn't get cleared out. But I do like her for that reason. Plus the art. I love the art on that card.
They're killing it with the art in this set, aren't they?
They really
Just
are.
I mean, it's not like set one was bad. I mean, set one was awesome, and it's like, look, let's just keep making everything awesome. So yes, I'm gonna. You know what? I really don't know which one. I'm having a problem too picking a favorite. Um, I'm just gonna have to say Robin Hood because that's some pretty epic art right on that
Yeah.
one. And they all
Yeah.
have look like they have really cool abilities, or just I don't know. They all look awesome.
Okay. Next question is from Zane Smith 007. Do you want to see Disney Park cards? Why not? 100% yes. I would love to see cards themed around the Disney rides or the characters in the rides, like the Hatbox Ghost and
Mm-hmm.
Pirates from the Pirates of the Caribbean. I think that'd be so cool. Now,
Yes.
if this question is asking, do I want to see like cards you can only get specifically at Disney parks? No, I don't think so. And I don't think that's going to happen.
At least not right away. Maybe in a few years they'll do something like that when the game is established and they have to find new ways to uh you know uh jazz up the fan base a bit. But no, I also don't want, even though I live so close to Disneyland, I don't want to see exclusive cards in the parks either.
Yeah.
Next question, Pirate Steven. Will Disney Lorcana Rise of the Floodborn be the Tickle Me Elmo of this holiday season? I'm gonna say no. What do you think? I have a reason why, but what do you think?
So I'm going to say um, context here is dependent. Like in the TCG space, yes, Disney Lorcana Rise of the Bloodborne will be the Tickle Me Elmo of the holiday season. You will not be able to find it anywhere. I'm already convinced. But if you're talking about toys in general, probably not.
Yeah, it's TCGs are still not super mainstream. Yes, there's a lot of money to be made, but I don't think that they would hit everywhere like Cabbage Patch Kids or Tickle Me Elmo did at the times when and Beanie Babies, they were everywhere. And I think trading cards probably have a little ways to go before they are everywhere. Which Lorcana may be the thing that helps get them there.
Yeah, I mean, and Lorcana will definitely be like among the worst examples of product shortages that we've seen probably since COVID with all the Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hot ticket item. So I totally understand what this question was asking.
Yeah. It's going to be impossible to find, more so than now, because not only do you have the same level of everything as for set one, but then you have the added layer of everyone who joined since the introduction of set one uh, in the last month, and all the people who now know that unfortunately there's money to be made by finding it and then reselling it to people who really, really, really want it so bad that they're willing to pay anything for it. And that's what happens at Christmas time when, when their kids are asking for it and they just have to get it for them for Christmas. There's your problem. So yes, that will happen.
The next question is from Riddler Man Gaming. Do you think the FOMO was artificially created by underproducing the product and not clearly communicating the reprint plan and distribution plan with their fans, thus creating an environment enticing scalpers to enter the scene? Um, so I will say this. I think this question is implying that there was some malicious intent on behalf of Ravensburger. Um, while a lot of these things are present, that the product was not clearly, like the distribution was not clearly communicated, the reprint plan wasn't clearly communicated, and all those things like led to that environment. But I don't think it was done through ill intent. I think it was just like, I mean, we've talked about this before. Ravensburger only had so much capital to print set one and set two. Like, they, no matter how long they waited, they weren't going to get any more money. So they had to make a choice: go forward with this, or like wait for, winning the lottery so they could put more money towards it. And they went ahead and printed it because this was going to be how they fueled their engine for the future of the game. Now, I will say this: I wish that Ravensburger was a lot better at communicating. Like, it has been very frustrating. And a lot of these times I'm just like, why? Why can't you tell us what conventions you're going to be at? Why can't you tell us about X, Y, or Z? Like, I just don't understand it. And I do wish that they were better at that. But no, I don't think there's any ill intent on their part.
No. And as a lot of people have said, over the years with trading cards, is that overprinting is almost more of a death knell than underprinting. So, um, you know, things sitting on shelves being unsold really doesn't look good and affects the game possibly more than it not being available and people wanting it. And so, if you combine that with making the decision of where are we going to spend our money, they're going to spend their money on printing set one and set two in a quantity that will be hopefully close to enough, but obviously was nowhere near enough. But that's just a decision that, is there's only so many metrics they can measure
Yep.
and have and things that they can do to know what that number is without having a product that's already on the shelves that now they have sales to know what kind of things they can do.
Finding the Goldilocks zone for any new product is difficult,
Yeah.
let alone something that was going to be this massive.
And we still are unsure because of all of the people who are reselling and buying just to resell. We still don't know really what the demand is from the people who actually want to play the game and collect the game. Like, how many people are getting it from those people at higher prices? How much more would they buy if they had that much extra capital to spend on it at closer to
True.
retail?
It's
Like,
true.
instead of buying $300 or $400 boxes, if they were able to buy $150 boxes, would they be just buying that one box they bought, or would they be buying two to spend the same $300?
Yeah.
So we don't know what the actual demand is because of all the variations in pricing. All right. So next up, we have from Mr. S. Do you think it's possible we see a power creep in the second set? If so, what does that mean for the game? Will this game be more of a collection type card game or a game to play type card game? What is the best move for Disney, well, Ravensburger, not Disney, to put this card game on the map big time? That's a lot of questions. So, will there be power creep in the second set? Yes. Will it be significant? No. There will be some power creep because every set has to have something new, and it may be some kind of power creep where things are a little bit more powerful, or there's a new keyword that is a little bit stronger than current keywords. So I think that, yes, there will be some power creep. So what does it mean for the game? Just that the game is growing and expanding. I think that's all it really means. What are your thoughts about power creep?
I mean, I'm not a seasoned enough of a TCG player to really speak to this. I sometimes wonder because I've seen people on Twitter talk about set 2 having power creep. And I just wonder if it's more of a perceived power creep because you have things like resist that is a new ability, but it nullifies a lot of damage dealing cards like grab your swords. Like, is that technically power creep? I don't know. I think maybe it's just a new mechanic that they introduced. So I'm gonna defer on this one because I just don't have the experience to really speak to it.
Plus, we've only seen what, less than 20 cards from the
Yeah,
set. So there may be new keywords that resist, right?
I just have heard from people that the creators, the developers of the game feel like the game is well balanced all the way up through like the set that they're currently working on. And if set one is any indication of what they consider balanced to be, then I feel comfortable about that.
Yes. Yeah. So, but power creep is there because you want the fresh new stuff to be cooler. It's just like a sequel of a movie always has to go a little bit further, but be kind of the same thing, but be a little bit flashier, a little bit more bombastic. So I just don't think the power creep, even if we do have any power creep, it's not going to be a large amount of power creep that just ruins everything in the second set. I think if you go 3 years in the future with set 12 and then you compare it to set one, I think the power creep will be much more noticeable. But it's
Mhm.
going to take a lot of time to get there, and there'll be a lot of things happening in between. So I think it's not really going to be an issue. As for the other questions, whether this will be more of a collection type game or a card or a gameplay type card game, honestly, I think it's going to be really close to 50-50 for both
I do too.
because this game is so much fun, and everyone that I've been talking to at the stores when I've been playing, they're all having fun. They're all enjoying building decks and playing the game and figuring things out. And everyone is also really having a lot of fun collecting. Who is able to do trades? It's been a really good time doing all this, and I think that there's going to be a lot of collectors who come in this just for the collection aspect. But I think there's going to be a lot of people playing this game as well. What is the best move to put this card game on the map big time? I think it's just simple. Continue what they're doing because, as I mentioned, it's fun and it's collectible. So just get it into people's hands. That's the biggest thing they can do is to get it into people's hands and make sure people know about it.
I mean, if I had a magic wand, the person specifically asked what is the best move for Disney to put this card game on the map big time. Like, I know Ravensburger's the one making and producing it, but I think the intention behind this question is Disney has the ability to put this in front of people's faces.
Yes.
And if I had a magic wand, I would say Disney would step in and put some money down to print some cards. And because I guarantee if they put enough money towards the problem, they can make it go away.
They could put a lot of money towards that particular problem. Yes. I think the thing that if you don't go into the actual production side of it, but just getting the word out, I think Disney could do a lot of stuff by putting it in the parks where it's everybody sees it. And putting something on Disney Plus, like do that behind the scenes documentary or make, I mean, this may not happen for a while, but when there actually is finally uh, a actual official Ravensburger tournament where, you know, a big tournament, put it on like Good Morning America. Do a segment on Good Morning America. Do something where they stream it live on the Disney YouTubes or maybe even on Disney Plus, like they do for some other things where they're live. Do some things that get it into people's eyeballs to see that there is this game that a lot of people are having a good time with and it's collectible. And then, send all those other people who don't know about it yet out to go find it.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Richard Hudson, what card from chapter one didn't live up to the hype? And second, what card that you thought was a stinker has turned out to be decent? So let's just answer the first part. The card that I think didn't live up to hype from chapter one pains me to say this because this was my profile picture for a long time, but it's Mickey Brave Little Taylor. He just hasn't seemed to find a home in any of the Ruby decks. And he was such a hyped up card, of course, being the promo from D23. I mean, and you could point to the cost, but Maleficent Monstrous Dragon has found a home. It's just like it's a great card, but it just hasn't lived up to the hype.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it is the only 4 lore card that's out there. So, you'd think that people would. I mean, I've seen it used, and I've used it a few times, but it's not like necessary to the deck for winning.
Now, it's
So,
not a card that you really build a deck around.
right. I don't know. I don't know if I really can think of any others that everyone was super, super like gung ho about, or I was, where it was like, I must play that card. Uh, that just like fizzled. It was, I don't know. There really wasn't really anything like that. I mean, so I don't think so.
And then as far as the second one, I mean, the one that automatically comes to my mind is Magic Mirror. That card got so much grief when it first came out, but it's
Yes.
actually been a banger of a card.
If we're actually, yeah, I agree with that. That one is it definitely changed a lot of games and been very essential. Um, Going back to the other one that I think was for me was like the most. I want to know what that card is for hype was when we got the art for Hakuna Matata, and
Yeah.
we talked about it so much, and it just ended up being like, I mean, I use it in my deck, but mainly because I need a song that's inkable.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's really the reason it's in there. I think I've used it for healing like in one game once. um so it's, I think that's the one for me that like the art was like, okay, this is awesome, let's talk about it, what could it be? And then it comes out and it's like, well, it's basically filler. um a stink, I think I'll have to agree with you on Magic Mirror being a stinker. Everyone just was like so down on that card. And yeah, so there we go. All right. Next up for the question from Ragnarok the Sun Puncher. Uh, this one's for you, Jared. If another flounder card is introduced, how would you deal with the crisis of trying to decide a favorite?
It's like anybody who's a parent will tell you you can't pick a favorite. You have enough love in your heart for all of your children. And I mean, I'm certain that that's what will happen when the inevitable Floodborn Flounder comes into play.
Yeah.
All right. So, next question from 40 card pickup. How much do you think support for Porcana events would help get people who don't have product to participate? Also, thoughts on use of proxies, max 8 to 10 in events. We've done proxies and it helps a ton. Haven't done Porcana yet. So, Porcana, for those of you who don't know, is a type it's a format of Lorcana where you just play with commons and uncommons. So it makes the game really accessible, especially right now where there's just a lot of bulk and not a lot of legendaries. I think it'd be great. Like people, like if you get people to play this game, they enjoy it. As far as proxies, this is a tough one for me because Ravensburger released a policy guide where they said stores that allow proxies would be in trouble, like potentially even losing their organized play status. So, I mean, personally, I think right now in this environment, proxies should be fine, but I could see why stores would want to try to avoid that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing that proxies do is it does even the field, um, for everyone to be able to play whatever the best decks are. Uh, so I think that's the good part of it. But I think that uh, I don't know. I think it just may rub some people the wrong way if there's like actual pricing on the line when proxies are involved. I don't know. It seems like it's really loaded with a lot of issues. But if it's just like getting people to learn the game, then yeah, do whatever you can to get people to learn the game, and have some fun with it. Porcana, or I think some people are trying to call it like Street Rat, I think is another name someone called it for the format, which is basically just, cheap decks, with a bunch of cards that are like none of them worth over $1 or whatever. Um, I think that those would also be a very good way to get people in to play the game and be able to walk home, like go home with a deck they spent $10 on or something, and be able to play whenever they wanted after the event. I think that would be pretty cool. Next up from Drew. Just decided to get into the game after scratching my head over it since demo events. So you may have already spoken about it in an episode I haven't listened to yet. But what are your thoughts on Dinner Bell specifically? Broken, fair, or unplayable?
I'm not going to say this card is broken, but I think this card is definitely above fair. This is going to be a really, really good card. And if I'm playing Ruby, I will be playing this because it has the potential to be a really powerful draw engine. James shrugged his shoulders for those of you who can't see.
You
Again, this goes back to us both being like relatively new at playing TCGs. It's hard for us to evaluate how good we think a card or card won't be. But I don't know, just from playing with Ruby, if they have some form of card draw, I think it's going to be like this is basically a Rapunzel that stays on the board permanently.
yeah, it's pretty crazy, but I mean, it can't be broken because there's costs to it. So you're going to have to be playing a deck that, I mean, like it's not in Amber, which has the Stitch Turbo engine that just gets so many cards out and puts so many cards on the board that you can then, just continuously every turn be banishing one of your, 6 or 7 characters you have out that has 1 or 2 damage on it, and just continuously be drawing even more cards than you're playing. So I mean, it's like, it's in a color Ruby that doesn't have a ton of card draw, right? So it's helping to lessen the need to play something like Amber or Amethyst to get you that card draw into the deck.
Yeah, so I think that's where we're at. Next question comes from Guido Van Hootwinkle, and I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. I heard you guys mention the Black Cauldron. That would be fun to feature in Lorcana. Agreed. This is one of my favorite Disney movies ever, but what card would you love to see out of it? And what would be a good feature action on that card? I should have spent some time thinking about this, but obviously the one that comes to my mind is the Horned King and some form of what's that where you bring them back from the graveyard?
Mm-hmm.
Um recursion. Some form of recursion on the Horned King.
And considering we already have some recursion, maybe this is where that little bits of power creep come in, where you can actually put them back on the board instead of in your hand. So where he's more powerful than Hades.
Yeah.
Who knows? Something like that. I have actually not seen. I don't know if I've ever seen this movie all the way through. Believe it or not, it was in that period of time where I wasn't seeing very many movies. But I will be there soon because I am still going through my Disney movie rewatch, and I am almost there. I think it's coming up very soon. So I will let you know who I think so in the future. But I think the Horn King is almost like an absolute must because even I know who that is, even though I haven't seen the movie. Next up, we have from Cliff. Do you think the cards that will be reprinted for Chapter 1 have a 1 at the bottom, or do you reckon it'll be 1.2 or the like? And he says that way it will keep collectors and the players happy. They won't keep this collector and player happy if they do it. I'm telling you right now. No, they will not be doing that. They've already said that there will be no difference in the cards on the reprint. Um, so, and I know that a lot of people think that because in a reprint, it's a reprint, and like when comics do it, there's like it says second printing on the page where it gives you all the data of the information about it, or they do a different cover, or they put a little 2 under the issue number, or whatever it may be. There's a signifier that it's a second printing. And I can understand for the collectability of a first printing, that's the case. But this is a card game. I think it's a little bit different. They used to do limited and unlimited versions, like in the old Star Wars CCG that we both collected at one point back in the day, where there was a black border and a white border. And I think that a lot of card companies have gone away from that kind of thing because it just really, in the current market with all the resellers and the people who hoard, it just makes it really difficult and really hard for people to actually play the game, because everyone, even players, will want the limited one. I mean, they still will want to, if they can, to get that. So it doesn't make players happy that there's a limited edition version of it, because they'd want to play that with that too. I mean, people want to bling out their decks with the foils. I mean, you're gonna want the cool stuff no matter what. It's just, there are some players who don't care for sure, but I don't think it's gonna make anybody happy really, except for the people who are hoarding and want to make a lot of money on it because they think it'll be worth something. I think those are the only people that would be really happy if there was a difference between the first printing and the second printing.
All right, let's see if we can answer these next few rapid fire here. Next one, Isa, will Lorcana ever make it to Latin America? It's so sad to see people playing and not having even a future date of when it will ever get here. Yes, it will make it to Latin America someday. We just don't know when.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a worldwide game, so it'll make it everywhere eventually, right?
Yep.
Okay, from Gobach, what themes do you want to see in future Lorcana sets? Well, you mentioned it like in the very, like, was it the one of the very first podcasts we ever did? You ever did? You mentioned a Halloween theme set.
Yeah, I would love seasonal themed
Yes,
cards.
yeah, definitely seasonal sets. I would like to see decks themed around types of characters we're getting in the game now, like princesses and pirates and things like that. Maybe do something like that. Um, I don't know what else they could really theme it around, because they just have such a wide range of things to do. It would be a while before we could really get a theme,
Yeah,
So I guess we'll
pirate
just have to
themed.
wait and see. Pirate.
Okay, we have more questions from 40 card pickup. Do you ever bring a deck that's of the same power level as your main deck so that others can play with you? No, I don't. That's something I never
Nope,
thought of until I listened to Live Laugh Lorcana, and they mentioned that, but no, I don't.
I don't either. And again, I didn't think of it until this question. Uh, I did play against someone who had like a hastily thrown together deck of what they managed to scrounge up. And I'm like, it would be really fun to not like bring my meta deck against this not meta deck. And, but he was really actually had no problem with it, because he was like, I'm learning so much of gameplay and what things to put in the deck and how things are happening, that it's okay. I don't mind not playing a good deck against a very good deck. And so it wasn't that big of a deal.
All right, this account also asked, do you think more Pixelborn online events could help? Yeah, of course. Don't have to lab cards that way. How do you think those could be set up? I mean, obviously through Discords. It would just be a matter of somebody wanting to take that mantle up.
Yeah, and of course it would all be unofficial and not endorsed or anything.
Correct. Yeah. Play at your
So
own
it would,
risk.
yeah, exactly. So it would just be, if someone wants to do it, I'm sure getting it out there will make it possible. I think we've answered a few of these other ones, about from Sleepy Panda about buy the cards now or wait for quarter 1 production run. And in general, I think quarter 1 production run is the way to go,
Yep.
to find stuff. Darth Lorcana asked, "What is the best TCG of all time, and why is it Lorcana?" Uh,
Yes.
yes, and because it's Lorcana. There you go. Uh, Geeked Up Gaming Tabletop asked, "The FOMO is real, but is it real enough for me to pay the gouging prices?" Well, that's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
And yes, it is. I think that at some point the prices will come down, especially when the reprint happens. So hey, wait. If you don't like the prices now, most of them are gonna go down. Some of them may stay high, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah. It's the reality of the situation we're in. Nobody likes it except for the scalpers, but
Yeah,
it's the reality of where we're at. So it's just a value judgment of if you want the cards bad enough. So our
right.
last question comes from Winston Smith. Do you think Ravensburger will meet demand with Floodborne, or will it be the first chapter all over again? I personally think it's going to be the first chapter all over again. I
Me too.
think they placed orders for set one and set two probably at the same time. Now that set one has been placed, I think they'll have the money to print set three more widely, but I think set two is going to be more of the same.
I think because they're doing that Disney 100 gift set, that they may print a lot of that to get stuff out there, especially into parks. I think
Hmm.
that's going to be, I'm hoping that that's going to be much more widely available than the gift set from this first run. I'm really hoping, because I think that was their thought doing that, was getting it into Disney collectors' hands and into that sphere. So I really hope that they print that more. So that one, maybe, but who knows? Overall,
All
I
right,
think it's basically going to be this.
let's do some ending segments. For the
Do we have
Lorcana
Lorcana?
lexicon, I'm going to cop out here and say it's fear of missing out. FOMO. We've been talking about it all day.
Yes, there you go. That was easy.
All right, let's talk about some cards.
New cards. You take the first one.
So the first one is a one cost on Emerald, Flynn Rider, Confident Vagabond. He has the Minnie Mouse and Olaf stat line. He's a 1/1/3 that quests for one lore. He's a storyborn hero prince. I love a good fan club, but could they at least try to get the nose right? And there's a like 5 images of Flynn in the background. As many people have noted, there's one of them is his prior card as a wanted poster. And then there's another one in the middle that looks like, who knows, maybe it could be a Floodborn version of him.
Yeah, that's really what it looks like. Because three of the posters just look like wanted posters with actually wanted printed on the top. But those
Yeah.
two, the one with the card is just all art. So there's another one that's all art. So yeah, that's kind of a clue that I think it's going to be another card. And then next up, we have in Sapphire a 2 cost, 2/3 inkable, Cogsworth Talking Clock, Storyborn Ally, with the ability, wait a minute, your characters with Reckless gain the ability, and I said the ability, but it gains, in quotes, exert, gain one lore. And he also has one lore on him. This is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So if you have some Gastons or Maui's out and there's no one to attack, but you put one of him out, guess what? They can gain a lore. But
Yeah.
this isn't exerting and questing. This is exerting with an ability, gain one lore. So anyone who readies characters and says they can no longer quest, guess what? They can still do this.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Pretty
And
big
it's
deal.
just an uncommon card.
Yeah. And at 2 cost,
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
going to.
Next up, we have Old Man Cogsworth. He's a 5 cost inkable Cogsworth grandfather clock. And I just love this card so much.
Mm-hmm.
He's a, like, I love the art of it so much. He has 2 strength, 5 willpower. He's a Floodborn ally. He has shift 3. He has ward, and his ability says unwind. Your other characters gain resist +1. Damage dealt to them is reduced by 1. He quests for 2 lore. But I think this is a card that you probably don't quest with until you're about to win.
Yeah. And remember that based on what they've said, any ability that has the plus means it can be stacked.
Stacked. Yeah.
So if, let's say, your Cinderella has a plus resist to +2 and you put down a Cogsworth +1, she now has resist +3,
Yeah. That's pretty
which is
bonkers.
crazy. Yeah, I can't wait to see what kind of decks people are going to build now with just with these few cards that we see. I mean, and there's so many more cards to come. We have uninkable 2 cost in Emerald called Bounce, action card. It has Tigger and Rue on it, and it says return chosen character of yours to hand to return another chosen character to their player's hand. So it literally is Bounce.
I love that they named a card after TCG lingo.
This is pretty powerful. I mean, there are abilities that you can play on that you can get on play. So you can bounce one of your cards, one of your characters that has some damage on it. You heal the damage and you get their on play ability for the second time. Like, Giant Tink or Maleficent Dragon or who knows what else.
Yeah.
And you can pick any other player's character to return to hand, including your own. If your opponent doesn't have any characters on field, you can return 2 of yours and get, again, 2 more on play abilities out, like Aladdin, the cheap Aladdin that, remove 1 lore or something like that. Anything. So this is pretty crazy.
Yep. All right. And our last officially revealed card is a 3 cost steel card. It's the Prince. Never gives up. He has 1 strength, 3 willpower. Dreamborn, hero, prince. He has bodyguard. He has resist +1, and he has 2 lore. This card is going to be annoying at the beginning of games to deal with.
Yes, he is. Very much so. And of course, it's in steel, which uh, is kind of just fits right in with these with bodyguards and you know just being really a pain in the butt. And I think the art on this is really awesome with all the steel based ink theming with square clouds and square bushes and trees. It's
Yeah.
pretty. Okay, so the other thing, as you said, is they're the officially released. Now they technically released these, but we can't see all of them, and that is the 4 promo cards that will be in the OP kit. Um, we can see most of them, but we can't see the stat lines on 3 of them. We can see the Cinderella, which is let me see. I'm going to try and find it here where I can see it close up. Cinderella is a 2-cost inkable 2/2 Dreamborn Hero Princess Knight, and it's Cinderella Knight in training. And her ability, Have Courage. When you play this character, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card, which is basically the Simba in Steel. That same ability, but for 1 more cost and with 1 more attack or strength. Good card, and as you mentioned, shiftable with the new Floodborn Cinderella.
Yep. We also have an emerald 2-cost card. Bucky, Squirrel.
Squirrel Squeak Tutor.
Okay. Squirrel. I'm like squinting at the screen. He has a ward. His ability Squeak says whenever you play Floodborn something, each opponent chooses and discards a card. We're assuming pretty strong ability to get the opponent to discard cards. It's like
We
Flynn.
just have, yeah, we just have to hope that there's some cards that people want to play that are Floodborns more than the current Emerald Floodborns, right? Because I think that I don't think Genie Floodborn's getting a whole lot of use right now. So, you know, hopefully something.
Yep.
Then we got in Ruby a 4-cost Minnie Mouse Wide Eyed Diver, Floodborn Hero, Shift 2 with Evasive, and the ability Undersea Adventure, which we aren't able to read all of it, but we think all of it says when you play a blank second action, maybe in a
Or an
turn,
item.
or a second item and an action, this character gets +2 lore this turn, which again is going to be awesome if you can
Yeah.
that off because it has evasive. You can shift it on turn 2, so you can play the other Ruby mini and then play this, and getting some Floodworms out early these days.
You're off to the races.
Yep.
So the last one is a 2-cost uninkable Robin Hood. Um, Capable fighter. Dreamborn hero. His ability is skirmish, exert, deal 1 damage to probably a chosen character or an exerted character. That's the part we just don't know.
Right. So cheap, simple damage without having to take damage.
Yep.
And if you have bodyguards out, he might not take damage for a while.
Right. So we also got some pretty cool looking promo pins.
Oh my
There's the
goodness,
green
yes.
Lorcana logo pin, but more importantly, the character pins.
Yeah, we got the one we already knew about, the art at least, which was the Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard, which I am so happy that that's a pin because that's such awesome art. But then we also got the incredible looking Rapunzel pin, where she is hanging, doing some painting, it looks like, or something.
And
We
the
don't know
Great
what.
Illuminary.
Yep. And that's in amber, so we're getting another amber Rapunzel, maybe a Floodborn. But yes, this I can't wait to hopefully try for 3 months to get these pins.
Brag, brag.
We also got another lore counter, same style, looks like the other one, just a different color. just like the Lorcana logo pin is green instead of blue. And then we also have what looks like a placard of some kind. Is that just like for the shop to display?
Yeah, for the tabletops.
Okay. All right. Say, can I win that?
So the other thing we had, somebody actually snapped a picture of the side of one of the starter decks at the UK Christmas show, and it's like Bigfoot. Any picture or video Bigfoot, it's blurry as heck. But somebody actually was able to look at this and maybe sort of hallucinate what some of these cards are. Definitely, it feels like uh, you see a couple that look like they could be Madam Mim. We definitely know there's a Madam Mim Fox form, but they also show potentially a Madam Mim snake form. And then you have Merlin as a crab, as a goat, and Merlin shapeshifter. So I think that's going to be an interesting mechanic that they will potentially be introducing. All right, let's wrap the show up. We are skipping Lorcana Jeopardy tonight because this episode has gone a little longer than normal. But if you liked what you heard, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Citizens of Lorcana. You can also follow us on the podcasting platform of your choice. And James, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere at Dan Regal, and you can check out geekshotphoto.com for links for my wife and I for photography and everything like that. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.